Welcome back. Too Fast Politics, Rick Wilson.
Molly Jong-Fast, as always, a delight to be with you.
A delight to be with you. So, Trump, first administration ever to fuck with SNAP benefits, longest shutdown ever, heading into Thanksgiving. My man just got a shellacking in the 25 election cycle. And the administration has come out of it with the decision to try to what? Like prosecute states for trying to fill SNAP benefits on their own?
Pretty much the message today has been don't feed those starving people that we're starving. I mean, and I think it is
Children,
I think it is
40%
pretty
of whom are
remarkable
children.
how yeah, that's exactly right. That's what I was getting to. I think it's pretty remarkable how we're leaving off the word children
Yeah.
from this, because
Sorry, I
the
didn't mean to
majority of
step
the
on
people
you.
that are receiving these benefits, the benefits go to their kids. If you watch Fox, you think these people are all buying, it's all like they're buying lottery tickets and menthol cigarettes because we're so subtle here at Fox. It's just
Right.
such a racist dog whistle. But a lot of people that are getting this are Trump supporters,
Red states,
red states, red congressional districts, and their kids.
white people in red
White
states.
white people in red states.
I'm going to make you be old Rick Wilson, the one
Yeah,
who
sure.
tweeted about how sad you were about Dick Cheney dying. We love you and we know that you worked with him and it's different when you're friends with someone. But what are the sort of what's the political calculus on fucking with food stamps? I mean, is that like what's the
This is something
history
that
on
gives
that?
Russell Vought a hard on, and so
But I mean, you
they
do have to theoretically at least win elections.
hypothetically, but they also look at elections as sort of more optional than they used to be. But in the case of SNAP benefits, there is a
I feel like
twofold
you're
thing here.
looking up some data for me.
No, I'm actually not. But the SNAP benefits problem is twofold for them. One, there's a racist dog whistle. They need to get the Trump base back in line. Okay. Even though most of the people receiving SNAP are not minorities, not illegal immigrants, because they don't get SNAP, just so everybody
Right.
knows, they need something to juice the Trump base back up, because even with his base, Trump's numbers are down.
Yeah.
The second part of this is there is a exercise of presidential authority argument being made by Russ Vought, Stephen Miller, those guys inside the White House, that holding the line on this and saying that the president gets to control all aspects of this is one more of their presidential plenary powers of the president that cannot be gainsaid, and that the law doesn't matter what it says, the president's will overrides the law.
Let's talk this through. Government longest shutdown ever, right?
Yep.
I mean, there are certain facts about Trumpism that I feel like we just don't repeat enough. Like, this man is the oldest person to ever have become president.
Yes.
So on Friday, when he kept falling asleep during things,
which was, I thought, quite special.
I mean, were you waiting for the CNN package on that? I mean, did you wonder where Jake's book is?
I was told by a number of people that any infirmity, slowness of wit, any alteration from the patterns of a healthy 50-year-old deserved immediate, consistent, ongoing, critical media concern at every second for the rest of their presidency. But apparently that rule was, is now one of those more in the breach than the observance.
So what do you think the game here is? Like, clearly Republicans did, even if they're not saying it to be true, they definitely saw that Tuesday was fucking shellacking for them.
Oh, they know it. And by the way, their own pollsters are telling them, wake the fuck up. Their own pollsters are telling them this has been really bad for you guys, because it has been. This has been a very bad month and change for the Republican Party, because, the harm being done to poor people is not the point. The harm being done to their own base is the point.
Right.
And there's been a lot of harm done to their own base.
Trump has been insane and done insane stuff. Like, it's been a decade. We've seen a lot of him where you're like, how does this work for anyone? But with this, it feels more like he's actually just been sort of checked out and not focused on anything.
I was going to sort of say, if you felt the same way I did about this, there has been he's like a passenger right now. And yes, he wants to troll people and talk and do his usual tough guy act. But it feels a little different to me right now that he has been much more Much more just like, yeah, well, Democrats, he'll read the talking point, but there's not much there. There's not much emotion to it.
Trump did a couple weeks ago, he was like on this Nobel Peace Prize kick where he was going to end all these wars.
Well, FIFA's
right?
going to give him one now.
And then they put out the prize. He didn't get it. It turns out it's not just like you just can't just like think about it and get it. And
Weird, huh?
yeah. And then now we're in the shutdown. He wants to get rid of the filibuster. I think it's a little bit interesting and important. Like if we look at last week, so Tuesday is this election. Mikie, Sherrill. This is a race that I've covered, so I'm really more sort of read in on it. Went from it was a D+6 for Harris, a D+13, I think.
Yeah, probably.
For Mikie, right? 12.8, I think.
Yeah. No, she did very well. And look, this breakdown of fundamental voter behavior with these governor's races, all through with that through line of economics, Republicans had locked that thing up with Trump for such a long time of, oh, Trump's good on the economy. Trump's the economy president. Trump's the guy who's going to make the economy hum again. Those things are now gone because people know he's not going to do anything for the economy. He's not going to help people survive. He's not going to help people prosper. He's helping his buddies. He's building a ballroom. He gives zero F's about anybody else and anything else. And so I think that both Sherrill and Spanberger, they were so good. They were so on point about sticking with affordability and jobs and the economy that they really gave all the Democrats a path forward that is much more terrifying to Republicans than if they had said, oh, well, yeah, we will relitigate the culture war with you one more time.
It's funny to me because Glenn Youngkin, Mr.
Our
Red
buddy.
Bass, he won Virginia by 2 points. Abigail Spanberger, she won Virginia by 14 plus. When Youngkin won, everyone said he was going to be president next.
That's what I was told by many people, that Glenn Youngkin was the inevitable next president. Somehow that has not worked out.
Yeah, it
but
feels like that.
I will say this, the delta among the numbers in Virginia was so enormous. The change level of votes, including in very red parts of the state and very rural counties of the state, was so enormous that I spoke to one Republican pollster on Friday morning, I guess. And he said, yeah, I'm still having trouble believing the numbers. And if I was like all my clients, I would tell you it was a stolen election, but it wasn't. They just beat our ass. And there is a little Republican vibe space emerging of, oh, the election was stolen. Of course it wasn't. But that tells you how badly they got whipped and how badly they know they got whipped.
The Georgia numbers. So these are Georgia's statewide Public Service Commission.
That's right.
We had two candidates, R+2 swung to a D+25.
One of my big theories of this case is you could never beat the culture war by fighting another culture war, but you could beat the culture war by fighting an economic war. And they had the same message as Spanberger and Sherrill and Mamdani, okay, to be fair.
Mamdani, yeah.
Economics, families, prosperity for individuals, taking care of people. The economic argument that's the underlying thing. It turned all the bullshit about culture war stuff and trans issues, like it turned them actually into a negative for the Republicans, which, call me crazy, but this is they were trying to play like, now that's what I call culture war 2024 edition. And it just didn't work.
Right. There were so many news cycles that were like, Democrats have lost Latino voters. They've lost them. They've lost them. They've lost them. They've lost them.
Right. It's all over.
They're back.
The phrasing that a lot of people use that I think is exactly right is Trump did not win those voters over. He just rented them. He had them for a cycle. And a lot of them were impacted by what was then the Biden economy, with high inflation and high prices and high gas prices. Well, those high prices are still with them, and their family members, relatives, friends are being rounded up on the streets. They are not down with the ice capades, if you will. And so this whole idea that Hispanics were permanently part of the Republican coalition, has really fallen apart. And the only caveat to that I would point out for our Democratic friends is they did not come back to you over climate change or abortion or gun control or any other portfolio of issues. They came back to you because of the economy and the horrors that are being played out in our streets right now. So those are things to keep in mind when you're talking about how do you take that return of this coalition and maximize it in 2026.
Right. That is true. And I think that's a really important point. But also, you know, at the end of the day, you don't really know why you get those voters.
You have some knowledge of it from the exit
expensive.
polls. You don't have amazing granularity on it, though, honestly.
Right.
But we do know from a lot of the exit polling, we do know from some of the voter file research that we've been engaged in and others have been engaged in, there's no powerful argument right now on the Republican side that says, hey, you know what, you should stick with us because we're going to make things more affordable. They have failed to do that. And we're going to stop rounding up your friends, family members, cousins, and neighbors in the streets because they're not going to stop doing that.
Right. No, certainly.
And so I feel like there's a moment here where Democrats, you know, can say this thing worked, do more of this thing.
Right. No, for sure. Well, and also, so I just want to get through last week. So we have this huge day, which is also good for people who care about democracy. And it feels like maybe we're going to get out of this thing eventually. And then the next day, Donald Trump gives Republican senators the tour of his flattened East Wing, some of the new gold lettering, and also tells them they have to get rid of the filibuster. Discuss.
Look, well, the real telling point there is what happened the minute he said you have to get rid of the filibuster. John Thune walked out the door, and within minutes of leaving that meeting, they were telling reporters the votes aren't there. No, it's not going to happen. So,
don't you?
And I think that also says something, Molly. I think that says that Republicans are worried now that if this economic message plays out as it played out this year, it plays out next year, they could lose the Senate, which is not something I wake up in the morning and think that's 100% possibility. But if they are in a position where they could lose the Senate, if they are in a position where they are much more constrained about what they say and do because they think they might lose the Senate, they are going to show more resistance, even if it's kind of passive resistance to what Trump is saying. Because when he comes out and says, in the filibuster, that's not like a simple task for them. That's not like a trivial task for them. That's a gigantic institution reshaping objective. And part of their fear about this is that if they make this move, if they make this play and decide, okay, we're going to get rid of the filibuster, and the Democrats win the Senate back next year, they have no filibuster. The tide of the world ebbs and flows, Molly, and not everything for the last 10 years has felt like it's going in the way of the good guys. But right now, you know, we need to go back and look at the examples. When Trump's on the ballot, he pulls out those unlikely voters. When he's not, 2018, 2022, 2025, things ain't good.
I want to go to the tariffs for a minute because the next day we see the Supreme Court. They have been just so fucking craven at every point. They're enabling this food stamp fight. Like, how hard is it to be?
I will say, I had a very smart lawyer tell me the way she did that was the only way she could do it and keep future cases alive. I understood, because I had the same reaction. I was like, the fuck is this?
Nobody is criticizing Ketanji Brown Jackson because we know that she had to do, and also she's in the minority. Like, the liberal justices are just doing as much as they can, but
they're just trying to get by.
Yeah, but that Wednesday tariff case where we saw Gorsuch and Justice Amy starting to push back, like, you know, maybe we don't want to ruin ourselves.
Did you notice how unusual it felt to hear justices on pretty much opposite sides of these equations making the same lines of questioning to the Solicitor General?
Yeah.
I mean, when I'm hearing Amy Coney Barrett and Neil Gorsuch sounding like Ketanji Brown Jackson in an argument about the legality of taxation through tariffs, I'm like, what world is this? May I have
But
more of this, please?
And I mean, what's so important about Trumpism and what I think is like you have to remember is like this is a fucking paper tiger, right? You push back at all and the whole thing falls apart, right? And even when you saw those when the justices were finally like, well, isn't that taxation? And then the admin was like, well, there's
These are
regulatory
regulatory
tariffs.
fees that somehow are like taxes, but not.
Not
No.
now. It's the Bowling Green massacre.
Right. It's alternative facts. There's this idea among Republicans that the obedience to Trump is and always will be absolute. And that everybody plays by that rule. And
Yeah.
I think as a general principle that has been correct. At a moment we're in right now where we see the court finally step up and do something that doesn't feel like full capitulation to Trump, it's kind of remarkable.
But it's also the Marjorie Taylor Greene question, right? Like, nobody here is a good person, but some of these people are seeing a political opportunity.
If you look at Josh Hawley, Tom Cotton, Marjorie Taylor Greene, a handful of others, who Rand Paul even, who are like bringing these critiques of Trumpism now into the forefront at the risk of being yelled at by Trump or
Right,
tweeted at by Trump or Laura
right.
Loomer going through their garbage.
Yeah.
Um,
Loomered, it's called.
Loomered! That moment we're in, I think I find it kind of fascinating because we didn't believe that was possible 2 years ago
Right.
for people to, be so consistent and never and unfailingly loyal to him. And yet
Yeah.
it is breaking around the edges. Trumpism is still incredibly dangerous, and there's a big movement of these billionaire a-holes around Trumpism that
Uh,
make whatever its successor virus is incredibly dangerous.
yes.
But guys, he falls asleep in the chair.
Multiple times. Rick
He
Wilson, will you come
Thank you,
back?
Molly. Absolutely, I will.